Hello, everybody. So I have my 2024 ICD10 book here, as you can see. 2024. A lot of people have been asking me about how to tab their books. So keep in mind, on this channel, we have a variation of an audience. We have aspiring coders who are thinking about getting into the coding field. We have current coders. We have people who are studying for their coding exams. And we have veteran coders. So if you already know how to tab your book, then perfect. If you don't, then I am making a video. I have been requested to make videos about how to tab your ICD-10 book. So here I am today, going to go through tabbing your book. All right. So we're going to open up the book to the first page, and you're going to see these yellow tabs in your book. Yellow tabs. And I'll go through page by page as well, so you will know what page your tab goes on. So we'll start with the first tab that is labeled Guidelines. Tab comes off, as you can see. And we're going to go to G1. It's probably about 4 pages into the book right after the table of contents. So it's going to be on G1 is where we're going to label our guidelines. And of course, our ICD-10CM guidelines are guidelines or information about how to code. Sometimes we don't know which codes go with each other, or we don't know certain things, and we can always refer to our official guidelines. Also, at the beginning of each chapter in the tabular list, and we'll go through that as well, there are chapter-specific guidelines as well. And your chapter-specific guidelines takes precedence over your official guidelines in the beginning of your book. An example of a guideline is, for an example, if you're reading a medical record, medical chart, and the clinician just states that the patient has diabetes, it doesn't say diabetes 1 or 2, well, the official guidelines let us know that if the diabetes is not specified in the medical record, then we're going to code for diabetes type 2. So we're tabbing the book. First tab, official guidelines, goes on G1. Then we're going to take the next one, your anatomical illustrations. It's going to go on page 5. So your anatomical illustrations are very, is it page 5? Yeah, page 5. So your anatomical illustrations are very good to refer to. Also, it's great to learn your book. You have to learn how to navigate through your book for studying purposes, preparing for the exam purposes, taking the exam purposes, and also if you want to research things once you are certified. So if you're on your exam and you have medical terminology questions, and we're not going to always remember all of the medical terminology questions and answers. It's just impossible. We're just not. So what you can do during your exam is always refer to your anatomical illustrations. You might have a question on the exam that says how many chambers are there within the heart. Well, you might not remember off the top of your head how many chambers there are, but you can always go to the picture of the illustration of the heart or the cardiac system or the cardiology system, and you'll have your answer there. So alpha index is going to be the next tab we're going to use. It says alpha index. And the alpha index is also short for index to diseases and injuries. That's going to be on page 39 in your 2024 book. Page 39 in your 2024 book. So then we have all of the rest of these labels that I'll show you. A through Z. And then over here it says A codes, B codes, C codes. You can choose either or. I just like the straight letters A through Z instead of the ones that say A codes or B codes or C codes. I just like these. So these are the ones that I'm going to use. Now, I hadn't labeled a book in years, which came in handy, although I've been having my book since October. It came in handy for those who wanted me to label it online because I had not already labeled it. I rarely use my book. You know, we have so many software things online, so I use my book mainly for research purposes or just to make sure I'm correct. So on page 4, let's see. On page 461, that's where your A tab is going to go. A00 is the beginning of your A codes, and those A codes are certain infectious and parasitic diseases. A00 through B99. So we're going to get our B tab. I'm also, again, telling you guys the page number so you will know. And I wanted to do it live as well so you guys can follow along if there are people who need to tab their book. You can just grab your book as we're doing this and you can tab it along with me. So your B tab is going to go on page 473. 473. While you're on your exam, you don't have time to kind of flip through to see which is which. So it's great to always label and tab your book so you can flip exactly to the page that you need. So I also have a little way of remembering these sections. Like your C tab is going to go on page 485. And I remember C, that category is for your neoplasm, and we know neoplasm is cancer. So I kind of think like C for cancer. That's how I remember that the C category is neoplasm or cancer. Your D tab. Here's your D. You probably can barely see it. It's really small. So your D tab is going to start on page 511. 511, your D tab. E. E is where our diabetes is in our book, our diabetes codes. And E, endocrine system. Like I said, I have a few little ways to kind of remember some of these systems in some of these categories. So your E tab is going to go on page 539. Your E tab is going to go on page 539. F. F is your behavior, mental and behavior codes. F, your mental health and behavior codes. Your F tab is going to go on page 561. Your F tab, 561. G. Your G tab, you're going to stick that one on page 599. 599 is where your G tab. H. And I'm going in alphabetical order. And this is live, so I'm sure you can see, I can see chat questions. So if you have any coding questions while I am here, I'll be happy to answer them for you. If you're not a coder yet and you want to know how to choose a coding program, I have answers for that as well. Your H tab is going to go on page 623. 623. I is your circulatory system. This is where your hypertension, heart failure, heart diseases, all of those are going to be in the I area, the I section of your book. So your I tab is going to go on page 683. 683 is your I tab. 683. So we have a tab that says J through L. J through L. So your J codes are like your respiratory codes. Pneumonia, your respiratory pulmonary diseases. That's where your J is going to be. Emphysema, asthma. Those are your J codes. So your J codes are going to start on page 731. 731, your J codes. So we got J through L with that one. Or there are specific tabs that you can label J, K, and L. So your K codes are like your GERD, which is your digestive system issues. L codes like your ulcer, your skin, things like that. So M for muscular. Osteoporosis is in your M's. M81 is osteoporosis. This is how I remember those things. This is how I remember muscular skeletal issues. So you're going to put your M tab on page 805. 805. That's the beginning of your M's. N as in Nancy. Some of your nervous system things are going to be in N. So the exact name of the category is, I said nervous system. The exact name of the category is diseases of your genital urinary system. I'm sorry, I said nervous. Your genital urinary system. And that's going to start on page 901. Let's see, it's going to be on 901. We can stick the tab on 899. Page 899 for your N tab. O, I remember O for obstetrics, like when you're pregnant. That's what your O's are for. Your obstetrics code. O is for pregnancy and childbirth. That's how I remember those as well. The beginning of your O's is going to be on page 925. You're going to stick your tab on page 925. 925. P, I remember P for like pediatrics. The exact name of the P category is going to be certain conditions originating in the perinatal period. Certain conditions originating in the perinatal period. And your P codes are going to start on page 963. 963. Q and R, that tab is together. Don't forget that you can write in your book too. A lot of people don't know that you can write in your book. Make sure you write in your book during these exams. Make sure you write in your book. Q. Q is going to start on page 973. 973. These are your congenital issues, and we know congenital means things that you are born with. So if someone says a patient has congenital heart failure, where they were born with their heart failure, that's what congenital is. You have congenital things, and you have things that are acquired. So S. So our R codes, we have Q and R together. Your R are your symptoms, your signs and symptoms. That's what your R category is, your signs and your symptoms. So for S, our S tab is going to go on page 1015. 1015. 1015. Our T tab S and T are consequences of external causes. So let's see where T starts. S is a very, 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 very long category. Very long category. Very long category. So let's see where our T codes start. This is a very thick book, as you guys can see. Our T codes are going to start on page 1145. 1145 is where we're going to stick our T tab. Now we have U and V tab together. We have the U and the V tab together. Okay, let's see. So it skips right to the Y. U through V. And Y through Z. Excuse me, W through Z. So I'm going to put this here. The W through Z code. Well, actually, let me add the V code first. And grab the V. The U and the V is together. This is a thick book trying to handle. The U and the V is together, so that's going to start. Let's see, let me put the tab down. That's going to start on page 1229, where your V. Put your U through V on page 1229. Your W through Z, you're going to stick that tab on page 1265. 1265. So we also have your table of neoplasms. That's going to be important too. That's an easy way to look up your cancer, things like that. Now, you never code from your index of diseases and injuries. Also, I wouldn't code from the table either. I will also always go back to the back of the book to the tabular list. But you're going to put your neoplasms table tab on page 365. Table of drugs and chemicals. That's going to go on page, see when the table of drugs and chemicals starts. Okay, on page 375. Page 375, table of drugs and chemicals. So, in 18 minutes, 19 minutes, we have now tabbed our 2024 book, and I'll show you what it looks like. Now labeled and put all of our tabs in the book. Here we go. So let me see, did anybody have any coding questions? It doesn't look like anybody had any coding questions. Nope. All right, thank you so much for joining me. A lot of people were asking about tabbing their 2024 ICD10 book. So we just tabbed the book. We will tab our 2024 CPT book. I'm waiting on mine to arrive. I ordered it kind of late. I use other resources. I usually just dig into my 2023 book so far since I hadn't had the 2024 book arrive yet. So we will next tab our 2024 CPT book when it arrives. Here is the ICD-10 book. And I use the AAPC versions. Of course, you have books, you have Optum, you have you have AAPC. You have a lot of different ICD-10 books. In the exam, they don't care which ICD-10 book that you use. But I typically like to use the AAPC book since I am taking AAPC exams. So that's just the book I've been used to for the last like 8 years. So I always buy this book. Well, actually, I always buy all of them. Well, I don't say all of them. I always buy the books, the Optum, and the AAPC just to look at the differences and things like that. But when I'm testing, taking an exam, I always use the AAPC books, whether it's the ICD-10, of course, the AMA book for the 2024 version of my CPT is the AMA book. I think that's the only one allowed when you take AAPC exams. So since no one has any questions, I have tabbed the book. You can go back and look at this video if you like, if you need direction or instructions on how to tab your book. It's very important to get familiar with your books because during the exam, it is timed. You only have 4 hours with the AAPC. Only have 4 hours to test. So you don't want to take up all of that time flipping and flopping through the book, not knowing where to go. So it's very important to tab your book. Also, make sure you write any relevant notes in your book. You can write in your book. The only thing you can't have during the exam is loose paper. Cannot have any loose paper, but you can always write in your book. So make sure you write any relevant notes that you think will help you on the exam in your book. So where does Excel fit into coding? So someone asked me, where does Excel fit into coding? Excel doesn't necessarily fit into the realm of coding, but sometimes we have reports to do. Sometimes, like when I do my training, I am a physician educator. And so as a physician educator, I have to audit physicians or clinicians, audit their chart. I am a provider education. I would say that, provider educator. Because it's not just physicians. There are physician assistants. There are nurse practitioners, as well as doctors. So I would say provider education. So Excel comes in for me when I do reports. For example, when I am auditing, I am looking for certain trends with certain providers. What codes do they get wrong often, or what codes they get right often, or where my education needs to be with this specific provider, because everybody knows different things. So I use Excel as a tool, the spreadsheet, for my trends. We might have to pull reports or do things like that. So that's where Excel fits into coding. I think Excel fits into every career, whether you're working at the hotel front desk, whether you're working in healthcare, you're working in any other entities, education, teaching. So Excel is just something that I think that we all should learn. Now, am I the best at Excel? No. I know a lot of shortcuts. I even found some shortcuts. Somebody posted it on LinkedIn, and I found some shortcuts, added to it, and I reposted it on LinkedIn. It probably has like 100,000 shares or something because it was very, very informative. So you can look on my LinkedIn, Marciana Jones, and there are some Excel tips about shortcuts that I often use when I'm using Excel. Because am I the best at Excel? No. But I always look up things, get on YouTube, and I'm learning Excel a lot more now. But yes, you need Excel when it comes to like things like reports. So any more questions? No, that was the only question about where does Excel fit into coding. So you guys have a great night. Happy New Year. Whatever question that you would like for me to ask, just drop them under each one of my videos. I often go back and look at my question. Although it might not be the same day, I'll go back and I'll see them, and I'll be glad to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you so much, and y'all have a great night.